Marcel, it is wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for reaching out to healthfulheroes.com. We appreciate your outreach, and of course, we very much appreciate your willingness to speak with us today to share your story and your journey with nasopharyngeal carcinoma. What we like to do before we get into sort of your journey itself, we want to just hear from you and get to know you. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, a bit about your background, helps others to see themselves in your journey.
Well, my name is Marcel personally. I'm 35 years old. My journey started off when I was pretty much born. I was born with acute asthma, and then that went on until I had cancer pretty much, which was when I was 13.
And
And
so,
now I'm 35, so that's where we are right now. I'm from Rochester, New York. I went to the Wilmot Cancer Center, and from the grace of God and the doctors, I'm here still.
So you born and raised in Rochester, and you still live in Rochester?
Yes.
Okay. And what kind of things do you like to do in your spare time, that kind of thing?
Play basketball. I like to write. I write a lot. I need to do more reading, but I mostly write. That's it. Enjoy life. That's my hobby. My hobby is enjoying life.
Fantastic. What kinds of things do you write about?
Anything. What's going on in the day, mainly my thought. I'm trying to write a book. That's been the process.
Wonderful.
Things that I see, I'm a people observer. Like, I like to observe, like, people, places, and things. So at any given time, I might pull out a pen and a piece of paper and write about what I see, like, in front of me. It's weird.
No, I think that's wonderful. You're able to capture the moment, which is exciting, and you're able to make your own impressions about it. And yeah, and look forward to reading some of the things you wrote.
It also keeps me sane. Believe it or not, and it's like, I wouldn't say therapeutic, in a way, but it's more of a peaceful thing for me. Some people do yoga, right? Some people, they like to hit the heavy bag. I like to write.
Wonderful, wonderful. And it's such a, it's an artistic expression. That's wonderful. Do you do any other type of art?
I used to, as a child, I used to draw a lot. I mean, I doodle every now and then, but I kind of half do music, half not. I'm very interested in music. That's pretty much as the art thing goes around. Well, I guess literature is art too, right? A form of expression.
Yeah.
So I guess you say that, but that's part of the, well, it is sports art is an art, right? I mean, that's how I think about it.
Absolutely.
Everything has some kind of artistic value to it, depending on how you look at it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And you have a bit of a unique perspective. What was it like growing up with asthma, and how long did that last, and what was your experience with asthma?
I kind of was born with it. And then as I got older, like in my early years, it started to progress pretty fast. And I was in the hospital a lot. I took a lot of prednisone growing up. I was out of school a lot. But yeah, a lot of hospital visits and inhalers and nebulizer treatments and steroids, a lot of tests, none, stuff like that.
Do you still have asthma today? Is that still affecting you?
I don't have the asthma part of it, but I do have the allergy part of it, which asthma is caused from allergies, pretty much, right? So I'm more so on the allergy side now than the asthma part.
And so growing up with asthma, you called it acute asthma. Is that because the attacks would happen all of a sudden? How would you describe that?
Yeah, all of a sudden, not really. It was like I should say chronic asthma instead of acute. Because it was very all the time. If I did something wrong, or I could go outside, run around for 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden I'm dying on the floor.
Was it triggered by exercise or exertion, or was it sort of the environment? How would it come about?
It was a variety of things. It was exercise. It could have been dust. Come to find out, I had different food allergies that I didn't know about until later on. Like you said, environment. It sounds weird, but different smells would trigger it. It was kind of bad growing. I had to grow up pretty much isolated.
So yeah, I mean, I imagine it impacted. You mentioned you had to get out of school a lot.
It also taught me how to look at the world differently. In retrospect, how I think now. For one, it kept me out of a lot of trouble. That's the main thing I learned from it. And it helped me to look at things outside of the box a lot because I had no choice. But I guess it's a risk reward type of thing.
And so having asthma as a young child, it's hard to deal with not only for yourself, but also for your family. Could you describe how your family supported you through your asthma?
Sometimes it can be overwhelming. I can tell. Well, looking back at it, it's like, here we go again, pretty much. And then on top of that, it's like, I don't want to see my child like this all the time. And like he's suffering. And there's nothing I can do to help him out. And things of that nature.
And so your mom or dad were there to support you through it and provide you with guidance on how to manage it? How did that work?
They was there. I mean, they can only be there so much, right? They can rub my chest, give me my medicine, take me to the doctors. But I mean, I guess that's the way they can support me. And honestly, but and also my sisters. I got 3 sisters.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, that's about it.
And so your three sisters, they helped you through? That's
Kept me
great.
busy, kept me on my toes.
Are they older, younger? Are they?
I have one older and two younger.
So your older sister was very, very helpful, I imagine.
Yes.
Great. That's great. You know, going to the hospital for the asthma and finding out more and more about your asthma, was there things that you leaned on for information, things that your doctor told you on how to manage it, and how did you sort of incorporate that into how you lived, right? You mentioned a bit of isolation. So how did things change for you?
Basically, I learned self-awareness a lot because like nobody knows your body like you, right? So I learn how I feel even before an episode would happen. Sometimes I learned the signs very very early on, and then I guess that's a good thing. But it also became a bad thing because I got immune to feeling sick. So sometimes I would have an attack and not even know it. So that's kind of dangerous. So it's a good and a bad thing. But I did learn a lot about myself and how strong I can be. Sometimes you can be stronger to a fault.
Yeah, no, that's very true. That's absolutely true. Especially when we're young, right? There's a lot of things you can ignore or think you can
Yep.
get through.
Everything is like I can deal with it. I can handle it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not the case.
You mentioned that you could sometimes tell before an episode would happen. What were some of the things that you felt that might be informative for others?
Self-awareness, and obviously to know something like that, you have to go through it a couple times. It's not gonna just happen out of nowhere. Like you're not gonna wake up and be like, hey, maybe today I might not feel good. Like it doesn't happen that way. Like for me, I learned when I start feeling tired a lot,
Okay.
when my energy level starting to go down. Okay, then maybe something's wrong.
Okay.
Maybe I need to pay attention like today specifically, or watch what I do today, or not try to go as hard as I would go every other day. That's one of the main signs. When you start feeling fatigue and your energy levels start going really low, and a loss of appetite.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what kid doesn't like to eat, right? So
True.
once I
That's
start
very
to
true.
feel like I'm not as hungry as I usually be, usually something that was behind that, and usually I'm not wrong.
Oh, wow. Wow. So you're basically predicting the episode. And so when the episode happens, do you immediately reach for your medicine? How does it work?
Yeah, and it also helps me be more calm to it instead of me having an anxiety attack and adding on to it and freaking out. Or I see people be like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening to me. Like, what's wrong? But if you see the signs before it happens, you know what's going on with you and you can deal with it accordingly.
Oh, that makes sense. And you're right, right? So you get anxious about it and that
Mm-hmm.
makes your episode worse. That makes sense.
Yeah, yep. That's what I learned personally.
And so you learn to listen to your body, notice the signs, anticipate, which helps you to be more calm about it.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like because it happened at such a young age, as you mentioned, you had to adapt to it. And so it sounds like you created some good ways to adapt, which most people would take for granted. Most people don't sort of pay attention to how fatigued they are
Mm-hmm.
and how that varies on a day-to-day basis and then use that to predict certain things. Wow,
It's like
that's great.
you play sport, when they teach you when you fall, right? What do they tell you to do? Embrace yourself.
Of
When you're
course.
about to fall, prepare yourself so the fall won't be as bad, right? I mean, that's kind of how I look at life a lot. Prepare yourself. The scrape might, the bump or scrape might not be as bad if you brace yourself.
Wow, that's very wise, very wise. And that's driven by your own personal experience. And so you mentioned that sort of over time it transitioned from chronic asthma to allergic asthma or allergy-driven asthma. When did you realize that you no longer needed the medication for chronic asthma, or do you still have it ready and available in case you need it?
I mean, I still have it today because asthma never really truly go away, especially if you have allergies. But I'll say around the age of 12 is when my body started to change. Because you start going through puberty and things start changing in your body, right? So around age 12 is when I was able to play outside for longer. I was able to like hang with my friends or not get winded in gym class, or I would have to use my inhaler every 4 hours. So around the age of 12, that's when things started to change.
Now that it's allergy driven, or is there a specific season that triggers things for you? A specific type of allergen that triggers things?
Dust, mold, I'm allergic to. Not so more on the trees anymore. Outside doesn't bother me too much anymore as I got older. But the main allergy that I have is food allergy, and that's because my personal hypothesis is because of chemo. So that's a whole different story.
And we're going to get to that now, I think. So thank you so much for sharing your journey with asthma. I think that it's an important part of your journey and growing up, and certainly will be helpful to others who were born with asthma and are managing through it. And I think they'll find help in some of the things that you shared.
The one thing I would say is don't let asthma limit you. Cause a lot of people say like they think like I got asthma, I can't do nothing, I can't enjoy outside, I can't run around. What I did, I pushed through it. Like okay, maybe I can only run for 10 minutes today. Let me try to run for 12 minutes tomorrow. Like gradually build yourself up. Now, mind you, things are going to happen, but you make your body stronger as you push through things.
I reflect too that those times where the episodes happen and you have to go to the hospital, those are pretty scary times. Could you talk about how you felt the first few times that happened?
It's like whatever. I mean, at a certain point, it became to me like whatever. Like I was just like, all right, it became normal. Very, very early on though.
Oh, okay.
So it always went.
How often would you say you had an episode in a month or 6 months? How often would you say you had episodes?
Well, I would say I would have a serious episode probably once, like a hospital episode, like once every 2 months at one point in time.
Oh, wow. Very frequent.
Yeah. It was pretty bad.
So I think that probably makes it on the severe side of asthma, probably.
Yeah, I had really bad asthma.
Oh, okay.
But it is hope, like me, you can grow out of it.
That's great that you did. I mean, that's I can imagine it's a scary thing when it happens. And now that you have allergic asthma, how often would you say you experience an episode?
Well, I had one last week.
Okay.
But that's because I had something that I was allergic to. But before then, more than 5 years.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
More on the 10 side. I would say almost close to 10 years.
Oh, wow. So then, and you still keep your medication just in case. So you were ready last week. Oh, wow. That's great. That's great. Is that something that you're conscious about? You're always sort of making sure you have it on you and with you? Is that something that's like normal these days? You just take it with you?
Normal.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a pair of underwear. I gotta have it with me every day.
Gotcha. It's like, people are keys, wallet, your keys, wallet, medicine, right?
Yep.
Right. Okay.
I actually don't care about my phone that much.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, makes sense. Well, one, going to the hospital is not and even the episodes themselves are pretty difficult to go through. And so, yeah, I can imagine. You forget your phone. Okay, so you don't get a text message. You forget your medicine.
Right.
That's a different
So what?
thing.
I can't be on Facebook for a couple hours, whatever.
At some point, I think you mentioned in your write-up that you were 13 when you found out you had nasopharyngeal carcinoma. But before you found out, was there anything that happened that sort of triggered you seeing the doctor or anything like that showed up that said, hey, there might be something wrong?
No, that story is so weird. So I had my tonsils taken out. This is before my 8th grade year. So I had my tonsils taken out, right? And then I was in recovery. And then 2 weeks went by. Cool. So 2 weeks after that, I wake up one morning. I had a ball, like not on the side, like the size of a softball on my neck, right here.
So you went to
like I woke up like that.
So you went to sleep and then you woke up and there was a ball on the side of your neck. Wow. So it happened very quickly. Wow.
Overnight.
Wow. Was there a specific trigger for the tonsillectomy? Was there something that caused you to get your tonsils removed?
Asthma.
Oh, asthma. Okay. So it was interfering with your breathing, and so you just figured to get rid of it. So it was a couple of weeks. It takes a couple of weeks to recover from tonsils, right? So you got to eat ice cream and things while you're doing it, right?
Yeah, and see, I was a kid. They said no, don't eat nothing spicy, right?
Sure.
So I ate ice cream. I think it was like for the first 3 days, and then my family had bought pepperoni pizza. What did I do?
Oh my goodness, you ate the pepperoni pizza.
I had to have a slice. The worst decision I made in my life. Yeah, that was very painful.
Oh, yeah, I mean, because the salt too probably is not good, and it's.
I tell you, you can be strong to a fault sometimes.
There you go. And so a couple of weeks later, you go to sleep, you wake up, and there's a golf ball. You said a golf ball size?
Softball.
Softball. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. So it's very big. And so what's going through your mind as you wake up to this? What happens?
Nothing. I was like, Mom, I need to go to the doctors. And then she looked at it, she started getting scared. She started panicking. I'm 13. Okay. I wasn't even 13 yet. This happened September 12th, I think. Pretty sure. I'm like, whatever. So my mom, she started panicking. Go to the doctors, blah, blah, blah. Not knowing that my life was about to change.
So this is around the year 2000 then, if
Yep,
I'm
2000.
and so your mom is concerned, right? Because that's not something that's not an everyday thing. You wake up and there's a big ball of, and the thought was probably something to do with the tonsillectomy, right?
Yeah.
Did she call the doctor and ask what was wrong, or did you just immediately go to the hospital?
They made an appointment. That didn't go very well. So then next thing I know, I have all these hospital appointments.
Okay.
Like back to back to back. It seemed like they want to stop.
Did they know immediately what was, or did it take them some time to figure it out?
I mean, I'm pretty sure they had an idea, but they didn't want to scare me. I was a kid.
Sure.
I think my mom knew, but she didn't want to like accept it.
Sure.
But yeah, then doctors.
And so you have all of a sudden you go from recovering from a tonsillectomy. 2 weeks later, you have this softball-sized growth on the side of your neck. You go into the doctors, and then there's just appointment after appointment after appointment. How many appointments do you think you had, and did they do scans and tests? Do you remember any of that?
It was 4 before I got diagnosed.
Okay, yeah. Oh, 4 appointments before you got diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
Over the span of like a week or a little over a week? How would you say?
2 weeks and a half.
2.5 weeks. Okay. Wow. How did they diagnose you? Do you remember if they did an X-ray or anything like that?
I got a biopsy.
Wow.
But I remember clear as day. One night I had a dream, and my great grandmother came to me in my dream, and she told me that I'm about to go through something, but no, not to be afraid. I'm gonna be okay.
That's very timely. Very kind of her to come to you. That's really great.
It's giving me goosebumps right now. Like it's like eerie. So once again, I had no symptoms up to that point.
Sure.
And one night I had a dream, and then I went and get diagnosed 2 days later.
Oh, and your great grandmother was alive, and were you close to her? Or?
No, she had passed. I was very close to her.
Okay. Wow, then she's the right messenger then, right?
Yeah, I was her first grandchild. No, great grandchild.
Yeah. Great grandmother comes to you. 2 days later, you were diagnosed. When you were diagnosed formally, you mentioned that your mom and the doctors may not have told you what you had, or did they tell you what you had, and then they talk about the severity of what you had? Was there any conversation?
No. Well, okay. They told me, he was like, Marcel, this is verbatim. We have discovered you have something that's called Nasopharyngeal Carcinoma, and you're in the 4th stage. And which is crazy is like, he asked me, do I know what that means? No, I didn't. I said no. But in my head, the word that came, somebody say something, you're not for sure that's the right answer, but something pops up in your mind. And when he said it, the first word that came to my mind was cancer. It's like I already knew. Of course, I had a dream. So whatever.
Sure.
And then I'm a child. I'm 13 years old. I'm innocent. I'm worried about going outside and see some girls. I'm not worried about me being sick.
Sure.
So when he said that, it was my mom and my grandmother, and they just started bawling their eyes out, and I just started smiling.
Okay.
Because I know my grandmother told me I was gonna be okay.
Oh wow. That's really nice then. So that she helped carry you through what could have been a very tough time.
Yeah, I didn't find out later on. Kind of like I didn't find out until 6 months after 6 months when I came into remission. Then they thought I was gonna die.
Okay. Oh wow. So you didn't look it up? You didn't look up what the statistics were or anything like that?
Well, now it's different because technology has advanced so much. Oh, like at that time, I had the second rarest cancer in the world, and it was like number 5 deadliest or something like that. I didn't know. I was a child. I didn't really care about that.
Good point. I mean, at 13, right? I mean, your ability to access information and good point.
Yeah, so it's like whatever. But I didn't find out until later on, like, oh, I was sick. They ripped me off. Like it's like, you know what? I don't know how long they gave me to live, but I'm telling you, they think I'll make it 20 years later. I'll tell you that much. They gave me less than 5% chance of living.
Oh wow.
I didn't find this out until later on, though. And I didn't. It was so weird. Like when I used to go to my doctor's office, they look at me like I'm a ghost sometimes. They can't believe that I still am walking around.
And so you were diagnosed, and it sounds like emotionally you took it well, but your mom and your grandmother certainly heard it and processed it in the way you would expect. What did the doctor say to you would happen next? Was there a surgery, or was there radiation and chemo? What were sort of the steps that were communicated to you, and did you understand all of what that was at the time?
When they gave my mom two options, right? I can have the surgery taken out, or I can do chemo and radiation. They said that when them doing surgery, it can be a chance that it spread. Chemo and radiation is a safer chance, but it'll be a longer process. But when they didn't tell my mom what the long-term effects that I would have with it, I would have rather had the surgery now that I'm an adult.
Okay.
But she made a choice.
Okay. That was the chemo and the radiation?
Yeah, I ended up doing 10 months of chemo and 4 months of radiation.
Wow.
Intensive radiation. It was bad. Like I still, like if I smell something burning, I can smell my skin burning sometimes. It's weird.
So 10 months of chemo, did they tell you what kind of chemo it was? Did they tell you how often it would be? Anything like that?
Yeah, back then, of course they told me, but I can't remember.
Sure.
It was a very long time ago.
Yeah, and you were young. I mean, they said a bunch of words that sounded like an
Yeah, it's like, for real? Okay.
So going through that, right? Do you remember your first infusion of chemo? Do you remember that at all?
Yep. Yeah, I remember like the back of my hand.
Sure.
It was the Sunday before Thanksgiving.
Oh, wow.
No, it was that Monday. We had Thanksgiving dinner on that Sunday, and then I went in that Monday morning. And all I remember is, okay, I mean all these people I've never seen before. And then I ended up getting hooked to this machine. And then I remember like an hour and a half later, I started throwing up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was my first day.
And so it was smart to have Thanksgiving early, right? That you had Thanksgiving early that year.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was still 2000, so you're still in the same year. So it was September to right before Thanksgiving, so literally a month and a half before your first chemo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How often was the chemo? Do you remember?
I was going the first cycle was 1 week on, 1 week off. Then I think it went from every other week. I think after like 4 months or something like that. I ended up doing outpatient chemo until I was done.
And so 10 months, that's quite a long time for the chemo.
Oh yeah, like not for nothing. Like I'm hearing people's stories, like their his journey, this and that and third, but they didn't have to endure sometimes even a quarter of what I had to endure.
And it's really tough. I mean, you were 13, right? I mean, that's a really tough thing to do at any age, but specifically when you're young. Talk to us about those 10 months. What was it like for you? And, did you get out of school? How did you manage through? What were some of the things you experienced?
Well, yeah, of course I was out of school. I couldn't be around people because of germs. I did have tutoring though. I graduated with a B plus average or something like that. Very lonely, isolated.
When you were going to get your infusions at 13, you're probably the youngest person that you see?
No, those kids that was younger.
Okay.
Actually, one of my sister's friends, we were on the same unit together.
Okay.
And she ended up dying.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she had stage 2 brain cancer.
Oh, my goodness.
And we went to the same school together.
And so she was diagnosed at around the same time and was going through it at around the same time?
Thinking about it right now is kind of tough to handle.
So 10 months of chemo. So could you tell us about your experience of it? Did the vomiting that you experienced in the first infusion, did that continue for the whole time? Were there any other side effects that you experienced?
I didn't start vomiting until the second round heavily.
Okay.
But my hair did fall out the first round.
Okay.
And I'll never forget that day. Like you hear about it and people you might see it on TV or like your cousin or somebody else, like you might until you can experience that feeling in that moment for yourself is different. I remember my mom brought me home. I was very weak. Like I couldn't even walk. I was lightheaded. You could smell the chemo coming up my pores. So she was like, Marcel, I want you to take a bath. Like, make me feel better. Blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, Mom. I get to the bathtub, and I'm weak. I can barely hold my hands up. I get in the bathtub, and then I was like, I'm just so tired. And I went like this. And then I go like this. And I'm like, oh, this is real. Like that's my moment of clarity right there. And there's no turning back from this right now. This is absolutely happening to me. Besides that, once I used to be bald-headed and being sick, every 20 minutes, everything was fine.
So it was severe fatigue, weakness. Did you experience pain at the time as well?
Well, they gave me medicine for pain. Man, also, I'm 13 years old. I don't feel no pain. I'm good. This can't defeat me. All that. Like, I'm like, whatever. But it was more of me being sick and the realization that I am sick during that period of time. And still trying to keep some kind of normalcy in my life. And I didn't want nobody to treat me differently either. Or it's no, oh my God, you're sick. Can I help you with this? Let me feel normal. I already know I'm going through something. Don't make me feel that way even more. I think that's one of the discussions that the patients and the caretakers don't have too much. And don't feel sorry for the person because that's gonna make them feel sorry for themselves.
That's great advice. Great advice.
And I didn't want that for myself because I would have felt worse than I already did. And then I don't want you looking at me like I'm less than a human.
And so your mom and those around you, how did they respond to your desire to be treated normally? Were they able to do it? And how did that go?
Somewhat. Not always. Because also, on the outside looking in, though, they can see when I might need help. Or maybe I'm not being normal that day. I might say that I am, but they can see that I'm not.
So how did that go over the course of the 10 months? Was there a period of time where you thought it was going to get better and it didn't? Was there a period of time where it got better and you could feel it getting better? Talk to me about that time period. Was there any variation along that time that gave you positive or negative? Either way.
I never felt negative.
Okay.
I mean, of course, I felt sick, but I never felt negative. I never felt like, no, I'm lying. I always knew it was a chance that I can go to sleep when I wake up. I still knew that to this day, but I didn't feel negative about it. Because one thing that was a blessing, when I had my Broviac placed in, which is a tool, it's basically IV put into your chest.
Okay.
A permanent IV. So they got poke you every time you go to the hospital. So I end up dying. So I knew what the peace of dying feels like. And I think that helped me being okay with the process.
So when did they put in you mentioned it in your write-up, the Broviac catheter. When did they do that? Was that right at the beginning?
Before my second round.
Before your second round. You described it in your write-up as your heart stopping. What was sort of the experience?
It's like, I know when it happened because I just, I was being operated on. I ended up seeing myself on the operating table.
Oh, wow.
And like they say, like, oh, like you see the white clouds and like, yeah, that's kind of real.
Wow. You feel like you had that out of body experience and you were able to view yourself while that was happening because you were anesthetized or asleep, right? And so these are things that folks told you afterwards, right? So you told that your heart stopped. And when you told your mom about your experience, what was the reaction?
She can't relate to it, so why would she care, right? I mean, that's what anything in life you can't relate to it. You're like, oh, okay.
It's such a true thing that you just said, and that's a reason why we do these conversations. We're having this conversation, you and I, but I reflect that this conversation is meant for others with nasopharyngeal carcinoma and who have the experience. Because even as many conversations as I have with folks like you who've been through it, I will never understand, right? I never will.
I mean, no, you don't want to understand it. You don't want to. Like, I want in the match. I would send my enemy to jail or to go through what I went through. I rather us find it out. Also, not for the weak-hearted person. You gotta be a different kind of person to even want to live through something like what I had to go through. Mind you, I just tell you, I just grew up from being born at age 12 with chronic asthma and then jumping right into that.
It's a rough go for sure. Rough go.
It took me really like 34 years to get to the point to where I want to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's deeply personal, right? It's deeply personal.
Yeah.
So that's why we call it Healthful Heroes as well, because even this act of sharing your journey, I view it as heroism because it's not for you to share, right? It's for you to share to help others.
Right.
It's not easy to share your journey, putting yourself out there, you're sharing your story. There's a vulnerability there. So, hey, that's why it's healthfulheroes.com. I admire what you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Well, thank you. And I also had to realize, like, to me, my life is normal because it's my life. To others, it's not as normal as it should be.
So when did the radiation start? Was that at the same time as the chemo, or was it sort of 6 months in? When did it start?
6 months in.
Okay.
Well, first we wanted to see if the chemotherapy was working. And I think it took like 4 months for it really to start working. And I remember after my second round, I had to switch medicines because the first medicine wasn't working at all. Basically, my body was rejecting the first round.
Got it.
Which in turn, I ended up needing a blood transfusion, and then I rejected the blood. It was so much.
So the blood transfusion to help with your, maybe you had anemia, your platelets were down or something like that.
Yeah, but my body rejected that too. I was like, can I get a break? Like, I just want to live. Like, but anyway, it worked out for the best, I guess.
And so when the radiation started, was that a big change? Was it a big add-on to what you were already going through? How did you experience?
It made things 10 times worse. I really was isolated then. I couldn't do nothing. I was in pain the whole time. I had these big gauze wrapped around my neck. My skin was burnt. All I could do was smell burning skin all day, every day. I couldn't even turn my head. Like, it was pretty bad. Then the rest of my body started hurting. Then when it mixed with the chemo, my bones was getting weak. I couldn't swallow food. Like, it was so much.
So you said something important at the beginning of this conversation about bracing yourself. What advice would you have to someone who has a prospect of chemo, whether it's 2 months or 10, radiation? How do you help them prepare and brace themselves for what they're about to go through?
That's a great question. I mean, you can't really brace yourself for something that you've never been through before. Like, my grandma, she had breast cancer, right? She had to do a little bit of radiation, not too much. But she never been through it, so I can tell her, like, well, I can tell you the snow is hot, right? And I would know if I burn myself, I'll tell you. But how would you know it if you didn't touch it yourself? I can tell you what I went through, but everybody is different. Your experience not might be mine. Yours can be better, yours can be worse. I can go deeper. It can depend on how old you are, what stage you're at, the kind of doctors that you have, the kind of care that you're gonna get. Like it's so many. I can just say that just go through it and embrace it instead of dismissing it. Because you'll learn a lot by yourself. You'll learn about the health in general when you learn a lot about yourself and how much you can push yourself to go through. Because I've seen people just give up. Like, it was too much for them. They didn't want to live no more.
Did you ever feel like that yourself? Feeling like, hey, I can't take it anymore? Were there times like that?
I felt like that more after because of the side effects that I had, more than when I was going through it.
Okay.
Chemotherapy, it does mess with your brain mentally. That's a different story. But in some days, I'll never ask why me. But I would say I don't want to live like this anymore. And like I told you earlier, I know how death feels, and I'll be okay with that feeling of peace. That doesn't mean I want to die, but I'll be okay with it. Maybe I shouldn't say that because I don't want people thinking like, oh, okay. No, that's not the way to go. But it's just how I feel personally.
You mentioned in your write-up that you were writing and that writing helped you through the process. Could you talk a bit about that and how it helps you process things and helps you think about your experience and sort of get through?
It gave me a way to talk to somebody. Like I talk to you, right? I'm only asking you questions, but I can't tell you like every single thought that's going on in my head.
Sure.
And writing gave that to me. A doctor might come in the room and might ask me, how do you feel today? Well, I feel a little bit tired, or my back hurt, my neck hurt. But you can't explain every intricate details to them because it's not going to change the diagnosis, but it'll change the mindset for you, knowing that you got it out your system.
Gotcha.
And a lot of times when people write, they can explain things better writing it down than they can tell somebody.
Absolutely. You mentioned it gave you someone to talk to. Which, and you mentioned you were isolated and lonely, right, through the process. And so that was helpful, right, to have that outlet.
Yeah, that piece of paper was my friend. It sounds weird saying that out loud, but it's true.
No, that sounded in a situation where no one understood what you were going through but you. The paper understood.
Exactly. And as everybody that know me, like, I don't talk that much, right? Or I don't really have, too much to say because I be having so much on my mind. But when I get on that piece of paper, everything just flows out.
So hopefully we're going to get to a bit of a happier time. 10 months go by. At what point did the doctor say you didn't have to do anymore or it was time to stop? And what were things that happened to make that possible?
I had an MRI. I was going through a treatment, and my oncologist came into the room, and I got some good news. I think we're almost done. In my head, I'm like, yeah, whatever. He's like, oh, I'm ordering MRI. I'm like, okay. No, I've been going. It's like at this point, I'm spinning the wheels. I'm just going through the motion. I've been doing this for so long now. And then he's like, yeah, everything came back. Your cancer's gone. I was like, what? I was like, yeah, right. He's like, no, I'm serious. You got one more outpatient chemo treatment and you're done. He said, go live your life.
Wow. Were you aware at the time? Well, so first of all, for the doctor, right? The doctor to come into someone with stage 4 nasopharyngeal carcinoma, that's not a common conversation to be had. Were you aware of how important that message was?
No, not at that time. This is a different story too. He never treated my cancer before. Also.
Okay.
And all the messages that he was giving to me, he was experimenting with it. He didn't know what he was doing. So basically, I was an experiment to him, which is kind of disheartening to say out loud. But yeah, and for me to make it this far, it's like I was his baby. I was his first baby.
Do you know what the experiment was in hindsight? Do you remember what he was experimenting with?
There's different medicines, different strategies. I remember me half sleep, and these doctors come in the room like, oh, this doctor's from here, this doctor's from over there. Why are they here? When they just want to see you, I'm like, bro, I have all these tubing hooked up to me. Why do I care about these people? But come to find out later, I was there experiment. Tell you, I know doctors coming all over the place just to meet me and see me in person. Kind of crazy.
So let me ask you a question, because I know you mentioned that your mom had decided on the chemo and radiation route. Was there ever a surgery to remove a mass afterwards? So you never had the surgery?
No.
Wow. So the chemo and the radiation, slowly, would you see the softball size lump, would you see it shrink over time?
Honestly, I never paid attention to it as they told me.
Oh, okay.
I'm not that. I didn't want to think about it.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, it went down. He's not here no more, right?
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so 10 months in, you're done with everything. You're told to go live your life. What happens next? What happens with this new life that you find afterwards?
High school.
Ah, That's easy, right? After what you've been through, this is the easiest thing in the world, right?
And yeah, that was different. High school, at first, I was upset. I felt like I was getting a lot of charity. I know, oh, he's a cancer kid. I'll hear whispers. Is that him? Is he back? Come on, like, I didn't hear you. You know, like, you got act stupid about it. I just went through life until the day you met me. I've just been in life.
So you did mention if you had to go back, you would have chosen the surgery, and you mentioned the side effects. What are some of the long-term side effects that maybe still persist today that you've experienced through your life?
See, my side effects only need to get worse. Like my memory, it's not as bad as it's supposed to be, but my memory, but also I exercise my brain a lot. No.
Okay.
So I have swallowing issues. They basically shrunk everything.
Okay.
Before it got a chance to even grow because I was going through puberty at that time.
Got it. I see.
So that's a problem. I still have neck spasms. I mean, you can tell like my voice is kind of like hoarse, and then I feel stuffed up or whatever. I don't produce saliva.
Okay.
So they burn like all this.
Oh, so they burned through your salivary glands?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
It's hard for me to break down food.
Okay.
I have to constantly drink water. That's why you see me circling back and forth.
Got it.
I guess there's a lot more to come. My hearing from the chemo.
Okay.
What else I gotta worry about? Having kids, maybe. Chemo could affect your sperm. Oh, like I said, food allergies.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you mentioned it.
The chemo changed the chemical balance in my body. A lot of stuff I was able to eat before, I can't eat no more. Yeah. And I became highly allergic.
What are the things you've become allergic to? What types of foods?
Fruit, chocolate, nuts.
Okay.
I mean, all these were common, but I was never allergic to them before that.
Okay. You changed what you're able to eat as well. Do you find yourself eating softer foods and things like that are easier to break down?
Yep. I now do exercises daily because of the structure in my jaw. It shrunk everything. I don't know if you can see like how my neck is so small. I have a very small neck. I got scarring on my neck. You know, just different stuff. Sometimes like food comes through my nose because there's a flap that when you swallow, like at the beginning of your esophagus, it's supposed to close, and mine doesn't always close. Okay. Because of the radiation.
Got it.
Certain things.
Eating has changed dramatically, and that makes sense.
And I lost all my teeth because of radiation.
Okay.
Which people that didn't know me, you know, or even some of my friends, they thought I was on drugs because I was losing my teeth. Crazy, right?
So when the doctor was saying, go live your life, for him, that's kind of what he thinks happens.
I see him once a year.
Oh, you do? Okay. And so you're one of the success stories. How has that relationship changed over time?
It's great. I ain't gonna lie, at one period of time, I was doing depression. I wasn't taking very good care of myself. I didn't like that necessarily. Sure. But I bounced back and, it's a great relationship. He think I can be doing way more, than I was doing. It's great. I guess I can. He's happy that I made it this far.
Yeah. Well, hey, so you made it through a really tough, really terrible time when you were very, very young. You've carried yourself through many, many years afterwards, high school, working, and etc. And now you are here and able to share your journey with others who might be faced with something hard and challenging and terrible. So first of all, Marcel, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I'm absolutely certain there will be someone who listens to your story and learns from it, but also gets inspired by the world that you present and the words that you've shared. So
hey man, that's what I'm here for. And thank you for having me. And listen, if you got any speaking engagements or if you want me to touch people or anything like that, involving giving back and giving time, and I know just seeing me in real life, it gives people hope. Especially when they find out my story. Like I just see people go out their mind when they see me, especially if they knew what I went through. Hold on, like nothing happened to me. I'm still alive. Smile, say hi. I said, look, like being dummy. Like, what? You say hi. You say hi. It's okay. I'm like a mythical character in the medical world.
Stage 4 nasopharyngeal carcinoma. The statistics are real, and so that you're here to share your story is a blessing for sure. I just wanted to thank you, Marcel, for taking the time. We took quite a bit of time, so I appreciate you taking the time. Sort of last words that you want to share with folks who are going through a tough time?
My last words is smile. It can always be worse, I promise you. Just smile. And you might make somebody else smile. And whenever you're feeling bad, you have a bad day, just like take a second to yourself and smile. Guarantee you feel better. That's my message to the world.
Great message, Marcel. You're making me smile. So thank you so much, Marcel. Appreciate you and I appreciate
All
you
right.
sharing your journey. Happy holidays.
I'm glad to hear your voice and talk to you and see you.
Okay. Well, same here as well. Wish you great holidays ahead and a great time with family. So thank you so much. And it was great to meet you and I look forward to staying in touch.
All right, you too. Peace out.
Thank you, Marcel. Take care. Bye-bye.